Hi everyone. I hope you are enjoying learning more about trees and especially how trees can help people and animals and how animals and people can also help trees. We help trees by planting them and taking care of them. Animals also plant trees when they put their seeds into the ground, sometimes on purpose, sometimes on accident. And I know we've also talked a little bit about trees and how they change and grow when they're alive. I also want us to think a little bit now about what happens when the tree starts to get to the end of its life and what happens maybe when a tree is not alive anymore. So I think this will be an interesting story for you to hear. This is called One Small Place in a Tree. And we're going to hear about how trees are still helping other creatures like animals and people, even when they might not be alive anymore. This is by Barbara Brenner and illustrated by Tom Leonard. One Small Place in a Tree. Looks like someone's walking through the forest. A tree hole. One small place in a tree. How does it get there? Who lives inside? Suppose that you could watch a hole from its beginning. You might see something like this. Here's one oak tree in a forest. It looks like all the others, except a black bear uses this one as a scratching post. Every time she goes by, the bear sharpens her claws on the trunk. You're walking in the woods. You see the tree and notice the scratch marks on the bark. Maybe you even catch a glimpse of the bear. After a while, the scratching chips some pieces of bark off the tree. A cut forms in the bark. A hole in the tree is beginning. Next time you're walking there, you see that tiny bugs have found the cut. They're called timber beetles, and they're about to set up housekeeping. The timber beetles get under the bark and bore into the tree. They make a maze of tunnels. They create spaces called cradles for their eggs, and they plant fungi for the colony to feed on. Imagine that you can look inside. You might see something like this. So do you see all the tunnels that they've created and the eggs that they're laying inside the tree because they got in through that hole where the bear scratched it? Soon the fungi will spread and are growing all over the walls of the tunnels. The beetle eggs have hatched into grubs. The grubs are feeding on the fungi. The fungi are feeding on the soft wood inside the tree. The beetle grubs become full-grown timber beetles. They eat their way out of the chambers and make more holes in the tree. See them coming out through the bark now? Can you see that? On your next visit, you count more than 10 holes, but the first one is the largest. So that's the first one where we saw the bear scratching. And these are the other ones where the beetles that hatched are starting to come out. One time when you're near the tree, you actually hear the sound of beetles chewing wood. A red-bellied woodpecker hears it too. The bird flies to the tree holes. It spears the beetles with its sharp beak or pulls them out with its long tongue. Many woodpeckers visit the oak tree to eat. After a summer, they've cleared the holes of beetles and beetle grubs, but they've made the big hole even bigger. Now, disease strikes. Do you know what that means, disease? It's kind of like when you're sick, it's not good for the tree. So it's not really going to be able to stay as healthy because it's kind of like the tree is sick. So disease strikes. Bacteria come in through the holes in the tree. You won't see the bacteria. They're too small, but you can see the damage they've done. The tree has heart rot. It's dying inside out. So let's see what we can find out about what happens when the tree gets a disease and is sick. What kinds of things you might be able to observe and see. It says, bark begins to loosen and fall off. The hole is now so large that you can actually see inside. It has become a hollow place that looks as if it could be a home for something. The first animal to use it is a flying squirrel. You find the squirrel holed up in there one winter day. You notice that it has stored some nuts under the loose bark around the hole. When you come by in the spring, the flying squirrel is gone. The hole is empty, but not for long. A pair of bluebirds moves in. The hole is just right for bluebirds, high enough off the ground for safety. The bluebirds line the hole with weeds and grass. Soon there are 6 bluish eggs in the nest hole. Next time you look inside, there are 6 bluebird chicks. The chicks stay safe in the nest until they are old enough to fly. By this time, the oak tree is no longer sending out leaves. Almost all of its bark is gone, but the hole dwellers don't seem to care. So look at that. The tree isn't really living so well anymore, remember, because it got that disease. So it's not growing new leaves, it's not growing any taller or making its branches or roots longer. But the animals who are using the hole don't mind that because they still have what they need. They're still able to use that hole. It says, for the next 3 springs, the hole in the tree is a nest for the same pair of bluebirds. For the next 3 winters, it's home to a family of white-footed mice. In all those 3 years, the tree hasn't grown at all. The oak tree is dead, but the hole is full of life. A hairy woodpecker sometimes comes to roost there. A gray squirrel often uses the hole as a hiding place. When the hole has water in it, you can sometimes see a tree frog there. Look at all the different animals who can use a hole like that. One day, lightning or a high wind or heavy rain or snow will bring this tree down. Many years later, all that may be left will be a log with a hole in it. Have you ever seen a tree like that that's kind of laying across the ground and maybe it has a hole in it or things are kind of growing on it? The tree isn't alive anymore, but other creatures might still use it or people might use it for something. The hole will still be a place for living things. A small garter snake may cool off in there. A redback salamander may lay its eggs there. Or maybe a hammock spider will make a web across the hole to catch some swarming insects. Living trees are important, but so are dead and dying trees. A dead tree often has a hole, one small place that is usually home for something. The end. So if you start to notice any of those signs in the tree about maybe that it's been scratched or that there are insects or birds living inside, that would be interesting to start to watch for and see what you notice happening to any trees that have some of those markings on them. Maybe you can be a scientist who comes back to observe those every few weeks and see if you notice anything changing. You'll have to let us know if you do. I hope that you've really enjoyed learning about trees this week. I always think it's really fun to learn about that. I love learning about science and things that are around us so we can pay more attention and get to appreciate nature a little bit more. If you see anything that you'd like to share with us, I hope you will. And I hope you all take care and we will see you soon.